Hello Commanders and welcome to part 4 of our Star Wars Legion Invasion Force build journey brought to you by Out of Arc Gaming. As always, my name is Phil. Now, we managed to put in a slightly longer stint on this one, working for 4 hours on the project. This session we're hoping to get the B1s pretty much fully done, although with our basic method we may not get all of them done this time. Then it'll be time to move on to the Magna Guard, where we'll be using the slap chop method of painting these. But we got 36 droids to do, so let's get straight into that. First things first for this session, we're going to start the basing now that the main part of the droids is done, which is the skeleton horde. What we do here is we paint the top of the base red. Specifically, we're using vermilion from Vallejo, but any red will do. We'll then be adding the Martian Iron Earth technical paint from Games Workshop, that when it dries there's a really nice crackling effect. After that we'll dry brush with the Chapuis Bone layer paint, again from Games Workshop, give the base rims a nice Abaddon black edge, and finally add some 6mm dry tusk from Gamer Grass. Now, when painting the bases, try to be careful not to let the red creep over the models itself. A little here and there is okay, as this can be touched up with the following steps. Okay, while that stage is dry, we're going to move on to the weapons of the droids. Here we're using the Black Templar contrast paint, and in a similar fashion to the Skeleton Horde, we're mixing this with some contrast medium. This will make it last a little bit longer and thin it down just a little bit. Really here it's just a case of pasting over all the weapons and the electro binoculars, trying to be as careful as possible to miss any of the hands that are actually holding the weapons, as the Black Templar will cover that really well. So we want to be a bit more careful when we're getting closer to the hands. But other than that, it's just a case of slapping it on, making sure it doesn't pull too much, and getting a really nice coverage on there. Now for the Martian Iron Earth. By the time we've done all of the models, we should be able to do some finishing touches on the bases. With the Martian Iron Earth, you'll want to use either an old brush or a scoop, as you essentially want to dollop this on and work it into the bases. This can ruin any good brushes, so really don't use your favourite brush on this, because that's a bad idea. For any bases with arc indicators on them, we left a small gap between the sections so that this can be easily seen later on when on the table. Alternatively, you can paint this back in if you wish, but leaving the gap has worked really well for us so far and does actually look quite nice with that red poking through. Depending on how thick you apply this will affect the extent of the cracking. Additionally, if you dry it faster by using a hairdryer, this will increase the cracking effect. Be careful not to let it go over the edges of the bases, as it can flake off on contact, and if you want a smooth edge, this will affect that. A quick wipe with a damp finger will be fine here, and now it's just a case of letting it dry while we work on other bits. Now that the AAT base is dried, we have a really good canvas to show you the next stage. Here we'll lightly dry brush a Shabti bone over the dried Martial earth to pick out the raised textures. Don't worry if it goes a bit heavy at first, this can be covered with grass tufts. Now once you have a nice even coverage of the Shabti, we'll do the rims of the base. For this we use the slightly watered down Abaddon Black from Games Workshop, although any other black paint will most likely do, and we simply go around the edges of the base. Now make sure you have a surface you don't mind getting paint on to put this on, as I can guarantee that some of these paint will be on the bottom of the base. Once you have a nice solid coverage of the Shabti and the Abaddon Black is dry, you can start to add the grass that we're going to use. Now you can add different colours of grass for a more sci-fi feel, but we stuck with the one colour. However, there is a lot of variation in the shape of these tufts. We found that plucking them off the paper using tweezers was the best method. Simply look at the model you have and decide how you want the grass to lay and place it there and give it a firm press. You can use some extra glue if you wish, but the sticky backing to it works really well. And with that, we have 2 full units completed now, really gathering pace on this project. The other 2 unit spaces aren't quite dry, so we'll move on to the Magna Guard now, and it's time for some slap chop. Now the Magna Guard were primed with a light grey rattle can rather than the white that we used on the B1s, which is perfect for this next step. And what we'll do now is some slap chop. This method is where you take a primed model and do a dry brush of a lighter colour to pre-highlight the model in preparation for applying a contrast paint. For this we use Vallejo Dead White and an Army Painter Masterclass dry brush. Using this brush we're able to hit the raised areas and buff the deeper areas where we need it. Now be careful with the electro staff ends and the electro whip when doing this. You want to concentrate on the body and cloak of the models, looking to hit the raised edges in a downward motion as best as possible. Once I was happy with the dry brush step and ensured that I had the right coverage on there, it was time to move on to the contrast paint Griff Charger Grey, which is a nice blue-grey colour. This works really well with the slap chop as those edges have a clear highlight and give it a very mechanical feel. Whilst I had this out, I did this for all of the models before moving on to the cloaks. Now, with the cloaks, I used a 50-50 mix of snakebite leather contrast paint and contrast medium, and applied this following the natural flow of the cloaks to get them right into those recesses. Where this got close to the main body, I took extra care to avoid any overspill. Once again, the pre-highlight works really well with the lower opacity of the contrast paint here, speeding up the process whilst giving a really good level of quality in our opinion. This can be fairly fiddly to get inside the cloaks, but I moved the models around to give myself the best angle to reach the back. And there we go, 13 hours in, and we have 2 full units done and 3 units very close to completion. Next time, we'll be looking at finishing off the bases on the first 2 units of B1 battle droids, completing the staffs and that electric glow on the Magnet Guard, and then seeing just what else we can get done in the time frame we have. 24 hours is starting to look very achievable at this point. Don't forget to click like on the video, subscribe to keep up to date, and if you do like what we're doing here at Out of Art Game, you can support us on Patreon with the link in the description below. But we will see you next time.